Good morning, everyone. My name is Marla McGuinness, and I will be your moderator for today's announcement. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the Honourable Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia, Laura Mackenzie, Executive Director of Screen Nova Scotia, and Mike Volpe, Chair of the Board of Directors of Screen Nova Scotia. The Premier and each guest have a few remarks, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Go ahead, Premier.
Thank you, Marla. Good morning, everyone. Let me start by recognizing International Women's Day. I have many, many strong women in my life. My wife, Carol, of course, my mother-in-law, Verna, my daughter, and many of those working alongside me as ministers and MLAs. They keep me going forward and pick me up when I need to be picked up and dust me off and push me forward. So I thank them, and we all recognize and celebrate the women in Nova Scotia and the women in our lives today. So thank you for that. Now Today has been a long time coming, so I'm very pleased to be here with Laura and Mike from Screen Nova Scotia for an exciting announcement that will support the future of film and television in this province. I'm excited. Are you guys excited?
So excited.
Okay, good. I'm particularly excited about this announcement because I've seen firsthand what it will mean to the industry. Laura has been bringing us to every set she could for the last few years to make sure that the seed was planted, showing me the impact of that the industry can have on our province. Our government has long understood the value of the film industry, its importance in growing the economy, creating jobs, and putting Nova Scotia on the map as a premium tourism destination. All of this, it drives towards our goal of increasing tourism and increasing population growth. Really, these things go hand in hand for me. And in today's environment, with the demand for entertainment at an all-time high, this is a perfect time for government to step up and show its support and commitment to growing the industry. Nova Scotia can be the go-to production hub in North America. I'm completely convinced of that. Many productions are already taking a closer look at what we have to offer in this province. Last year, we saw demand take off, and it's the right time right now to push the envelope. So I believe in this province, and I believe in our film and television industry, and now others across North America and really around the world are seeing it too. I could tell you what others are seeing about Nova Scotia, but if you'll allow me a few minutes, I think it's better to show you with a short video. So if we can play that video.
I always remember the first time I came to Nova Scotia. I went to Cape Breton Island, and one of the things that impressed me more than anything else, the different topography. There's hills, there's dense forest, there's sandy beaches, there's rocky beaches. I was amazed in a relatively small area how many different location possibilities there were.
I think Nova Scotia is more than a background, it's a character. And we use what we have around us naturally, I think, in a really positive way.
It's so picturesque. When we first came to Lunenburg, it really looked like a set. It was so perfect.
I love working in Nova Scotia. I did a movie out here 6 or 7 years ago, and this part of the world is so blessed and so beautiful.
Shooting in Nova Scotia was fantastic, and truly, when I sit down with my fellow filmmakers, I mention often, if you have a reason to shoot in Nova Scotia, I recommend shooting in Nova Scotia. I mean, the crew was truly incredible.
Robert Eggers talks about, at the budget level we had, he designed certain shots with a crane that they couldn't quite get here. So the grip crew really approximated those shots in an alternative way. He was very happy.
All right, have it your way.
When I was brought on as a director for Stage Mother, the producers weren't really sure where they were going to shoot the movie. I saw budgets for Vancouver, Atlanta, New York, San Francisco itself, and finally the producers landed on Nova Scotia because we had great locations, we had great crews, and we had a great incentive that made the whole bottom line work.
Honestly, the tax incentives were one of the main things that brought us here in making our budget possible. And then also the high level of expertise, the friendliness, and the access to these incredible natural locations. We needed a small fishing town. To have that be so close to the larger support of Halifax and the infrastructure in Nova Scotia was much easier for us than shooting in northern Maine, for instance, where we would be much more isolated.
Working in the film community out here in Nova Scotia, it's like working with an extended family. It's a very close, tight-knit community. We have everything you need, from experienced crew to experienced producers. Whatever you need, the job can get done out here on the East Coast.
Working in Nova Scotia with these great Nova Scotian collaborators, they were able to bring my vision to the screen, and I'm sure they will do the same for your film.
Also, you know, compared to working in New York, it's just been so easy to move around here. There's no traffic, you know. We're not competing with a lot of other productions. That's been really, really nice.
Well, if that doesn't make you proud to be Nova Scotian, I don't know what will. So we know how special this province is, and we're thrilled now that so many people are taking notice. So now is really the time. We need to seize the opportunity to help the industry grow, expand the industry. And that's why I'm so pleased today to announce 2 new initiatives to support film and television in Nova Scotia. Everyone can sympathize with one of the industry's biggest challenges, and that's our weather. To say that the weather makes it difficult to film at certain times would certainly be an understatement. So today we're announcing that the province will invest $8 million towards a soundstage that will shift film and television from a seasonal industry into a year-round job creator and economic generator. This is such a good thing. I'm so excited about this. It raises our profile locally, nationally, and internationally, and enhances Nova Scotia's reputation as a place to do business. This is a true game changer for the industry. Interest from nationally and internationally renowned productions is already growing fast, and a soundstage will only increase Nova Scotia's appeal. So I'm really excited about that, but I'm also really pleased to be announcing support for Nova Scotian projects. Producing local content has been harder since the abrupt end to the film tax credit back in 2015. New and established producers have had fewer resources to develop and finance Nova Scotia-owned productions. So for those projects that do get made, Nova Scotia filmmakers are often forced to simply kind of bootstrap it and reinvest some or all of their own pay from a project back into the budget. So today we're announcing we're investing $15 million over 5 years to create a content creator fund. This will support our local directors, writers, actors, and performers, and ensure that more stories from underrepresented communities across this province can be told. Screen Nova Scotia will administer the fund and lead development of the 50,000 square foot soundstage facility. This week, we'll also be traveling to Los Angeles with my colleagues from Screen Nova Scotia to meet with decision makers at HBO, Netflix, Sony, NBC Universal, Disney, and more, to tell them what Nova Scotia has to offer, and to really show them that we are open for business and they can do their project here with great pride. So with those words, I'll turn it over to Laura to tell you a bit more. But I am extremely proud to be representing Nova Scotia and the hardworking professionals in our local industry here today. Thank you. Laura?
Thank you, Premier. As you can imagine, my colleagues and I are filled with many emotions, excitement and pride and gratitude to receive this wonderful news and to be able to share it with the film and television industry today. This is a historic and pivotal day for us. It's been almost 7 years since the film tax credit was eliminated, and since that time, the industry has worked hard to recover and rebuild. Despite what happened in 2015, we are seeing record production numbers. Last year, we doubled our production volume, contributing $180 million investment into this province and putting 2,000 Nova Scotians to work. But most importantly, the talent that exists here has extended Nova Scotia's reach onto the international map. Locally created shows such as Digstown and Wildhood, and international productions such as The Lighthouse, The Sinner, and The Curse of Oak Island are showcasing what Nova Scotia has to offer. And today is pivotal because we now have a partner in Premier Houston, and because this investment in our sector will set us on course to reach our full growth potential. It's been a pleasure working with Premier Houston and his team over the past 4 years. The Premier has an exceptional understanding of the film industry and the economic impact it has on our province. A healthy film industry strengthens communities all over Nova Scotia. Our reputation as a place to do business is enhanced. Foreign direct investment dollars flow in and tourism grows. Our universities and community colleges produce graduates who are skilled in film production. They build careers here. They expand our province's tax base. All of these factors influence an individual's decision to visit or even move here permanently. Overall, Nova Scotia's communities prosper. When a production chooses a rural filming location in the province, they spend their production budgets in the small businesses that make up the heart of those communities. They fill hotels and restaurants, often in the off-season. They purchase building supplies in the local hardware stores. They rent vehicles and equipment, and they hire local tradespeople for their unique skill sets and knowledge. The global film industry has substantially changed over the past decade. While companies such as Netflix, Disney, and Amazon have built streaming services with never-ending appetite for new content, Canada has become an increasingly attractive destination for production. With the development of a soundstage, we will be equipped to welcome our share of the tidal wave of production that has been coming across this country. A soundstage is an essential piece of infrastructure for a successful production industry. As Premier Houston mentioned, a soundstage extends our production season from 9 to 12 months, creating reliable year-over-year employment rather than having our crews leave in the winter to go find work in Toronto or Vancouver. And as we enter into one of the most significant workforce transitions in history, a soundstage will be a major tool in assisting the industry in creating upwards of 500 highly skilled jobs in the next 5 years. We hope that many Nova Scotians that were forced to leave in 2015 will find their way home, and hopefully this time for good. Building a soundstage offers the advantage of creating an accessible space where anyone can be hired to work. In addition, the soundstage will help advance Screen Nova Scotia's plan to increase the number of marginalized and underrepresented people in this industry. Investing in a soundstage will significantly transform the potential and promise of Nova Scotia's film and television industry. In a global market saturated with demand, now is the time for Nova Scotia to step up and take advantage of its greatest assets, its people, its places, and our potential. Screen Nova Scotia is a member-driven industry association and film commission built by industry for industry. 7 years later, we are now an internationally recognized film commission responsible for attracting production to this province and developing, supporting, and celebrating our local industry. We are excited and prepared to administer a content creator fund that will help develop our local filmmakers, and we are ready to get to work on building a soundstage. Lastly, before I hand the mic over to my colleague, I want to acknowledge the film community. Today is a good day to celebrate your resilience and your resolve. We're turning a corner thanks to your hard work and dedication over these past years. With Premier Houston as a partner, we can now turn our focus back to what we do best, making great film and television for audiences around the world. And now I'd like to introduce Mike Volpe, local producer and chair of the board of directors for Screen Nova Scotia, to talk about the Content Creator Fund.
Thank you, Laura. And a special thank you to Premier Houston and your government. This is an important day in the trajectory of the Nova Scotia film and television industry. As Laura explained, the commitment to a soundstage is so exciting. It'll give productions from both here and away a new permanent home, a dedicated place, a facility to do year-round production. Now, I'm here to talk about, and I'm privileged to talk about, the Content Creator Fund, which the Premier also announced. This fund will stimulate creative innovation for not only our current crop of filmmakers, the talented ones that we have, but also a new and diverse generation of Nova Scotians who will write, direct, produce the province's next hit movie or binge-worthy TV series. While this announcement is about the past, allow me, if you wouldn't mind, a little trip back. This announcement is about the future. I'm going to go back in the past a little bit, back to 2015. When the tax credit was canceled, to far less fanfare, another important program was also canceled, the Nova Scotia Film and Television Equity Program. That program gave Nova Scotia-owned films and TV shows a direct injection of critical financing, which in many cases was the key factor in getting those shows made and made well. Such series as this hour's 22 Minutes, Call Me Fitz, Haven, Book of Negroes, and movies and documentaries such as Trailer Park Boys, The Hanging Garden, Men of the Deeps, Hobo with the Shotgun, to name only a few of the dozens, maybe hundreds of projects that were supported by this equity fund. When that went away, getting projects like that made plummeted. Now, as the Premier said, writers and directors and producers were often forced to personally reinvest their own fees back into projects to even get them made. In effect, working years for free. As you can imagine, not a great environment for creative stimulation or corporate sustainability. Well, that's changing as of today. With the Premier's announcement of the Content Creator Fund, $3 million per year for 5 years. This fund is automatic, transparent, and last in, and with it, new emerging talent, diverse and underrepresented voices, as well as our seasoned filmmakers will once again have the opportunity to tell our stories and compete in the exploding global content marketplace. And with our talented cast and amazing crews, like you saw in that video, that's all we need, just a chance to compete, and we will do well. So, Premier Houston, once again, a special thank you for being a champion for Nova Scotia Film and Television for 7 years. That's how long I've known you. And it's been unflinching. You got it right away, which it doesn't happen a lot sometimes, but you got it right away. You knew that it was an economic generator, a job creator, and a benefit for the province. So thank you for believing in the industry and believing in the people who work in it. And thank you for honoring that belief today. I know the province will be rewarded for it. Thanks.
We'll now take questions from the room before we move to the phone lines. Go ahead.
With the money that's announced today related to the soundstage, where does that put you in terms of this thing actually becoming a reality? Is all the other money you need already in place, or do you now have to go out and secure that?
Well, we've been working with a number of different investors over the past couple of years. Since the industry really took off over the pandemic, a number of investors came forward suggesting that it would be a good time to make this happen. And so we've continued the conversation through. At this point, what Screen Nova Scotia is intending to do is to put out an RFP for the project with a prospectus to find a private partner.
Do you know where you'll build it?
Not yet.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be in Halifax?
Oh, we would prefer it to be in HRM. It just makes best sense for the industry. Just because what happens is when productions come here, they typically want to film on location in the rural communities, but they need a home in HRM so that the crews can go home at night, and that's where they're building their interiors. So ideally, the space that we build will be in HRM.
And Mr. Volpe, on the fund, what does this, other than the fact that it's dedicated to folks from Nova Scotia, how is this different from the existing fund, and what does it allow the industry to do that it couldn't for people who maybe would have tapped into the fund that's in place now?
Well, the fund that we currently incentive is available for all types of production, service production, and domestic production. The thing that we lost in 2015 was just there's direct, strategic investment in certain projects. Like, I can speak about Trailer Park Boys, which would have been difficult to get off the ground all those years ago without that equity injection. And so we lost that for 7 years. And so we had an inability to close financing on a lot of like feature films around here, and smaller projects where the directors and writers, the artists really kind of learn their trade, and that's where the creativity comes from. Couldn't do those. So this will once again allow them to close financing on projects and actually get things done. And so it'll work together with the service sector. So we'll have a stronger domestic side as well as a very strong service side.
Is there an estimated baseline figure as to what a soundstage could mean in terms of a financial windfall for the local industry?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we would estimate that, a soundstage could bring in another, $100 million in production volume in a year if we had 2 productions going in it at any given time.
And you mentioned 500 jobs. That's when it's up and running. You think it would generate 500 jobs sort of on an ongoing basis?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that we'll need to either repurpose or attract 500 new people into the film industry over the next 5 years, so that when our sound stage is up and running, and also we're going to be using spaces elsewhere. 2 stages that we're going to build is not going to be enough to absorb the opportunity lost over the last 10 years. So we're going to be busy enough to require that many new skilled workers.
Laura, for lack of a better term, the pandemic bump. I wonder if you can just kind of explain what's happened to the industry because of the pandemic.
Well, I would say it's, it has a lot to do with Nova Scotia's delicate handling of the pandemic. And at the same time, the film industry was never shut down. We were never mandated to close. So what we did is we put, medical grade protocols in place, and the industry was dedicated to, the most stringent protocols possible. It was probably one of the safest places to be, was on a film set, with the amount of testing and safety protocols going on. So we continued to work. And the other thing that happened during the pandemic is that there was this incredible appetite for new content, right? Because that's what people were doing. So, and a lot of studios were having a really hard time getting into production in other jurisdictions that weren't as reliable. So they might shut down for a couple of weeks and then kick back up and then shut back down. That's very expensive. So in a place like Nova Scotia, where we stayed open reliably and consistently for the whole time, everybody wanted to come to Nova Scotia. Now we can only supply so much demand. So at this point, there was lots of productions that wanted to come here that we simply couldn't supply. But what it really did is generate a lot of interest in Nova Scotia. And then there was many articles out there, in the New York Times and The Economist, that were, spreading the news about, the Atlantic bubble and how safe we were. And that goes a long way, and sharing that message with the film industry as well.
You're going to enter a period, I guess, where the playing field, so to speak, is a bit more even as people emerge and start to get back to normal in just about everywhere in North America, correct? So you're going to have to capitalize somehow. Do you think this?
So it's an interesting concept, because over the last decade, the amount of money that's being spent in content, and specifically in Canada, has gone from probably 250 million to 7 billion. And these are estimate numbers. I'm talking about the production that's coming to Canada. So they're over capacity in every jurisdiction across Canada. And here in Nova Scotia, that was starting to happen just as the film industry was canceled. So we weren't looking that way. We weren't looking at trying to figure out how we could, absorb our potential market share. So over the last 5 years, our market share of production has reduced from 2% to 1%, despite the fact that our production volume numbers have, we're doing record production numbers. So what that means is that there is enough production for everybody. If we have the infrastructure and the crew and the performers and the incentive, there will be production to come here.
What's the
just on that, Keith, if I could, because I think what you're like, momentum's a funny thing, right? We have momentum from the last couple of years. That's what today is about. Today is about seizing the opportunity to keep that momentum. We're not gonna walk away and let this momentum dissipate. We're going to send a strong message, and next week as well in LA, that the film and television industry has a partner in the province of Nova Scotia. We will support their growth. We're going to keep the momentum. We're going to seize this opportunity to make sure that this momentum does not go away. We're not going to let it go away.
Premier, as folks at the podium with you point out, you've been pushing this even while you were in opposition, and now that you have the reins of power, what is it about this that makes you believe that this is a good investment?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, and this is, I hope Nova Scotians will ultimately see this over the course of our government, is that the things we talked about in opposition, we were serious about. We invested the time to understand the issues and then took positions that we were, not just because they were the opposite of the government, but actually positions that we were committed to and felt very strongly about, and that we could put our hand on our heart and say we're going to do that. So people will see that. This is one example of that. So I don't think I'm that different than the average Nova Scotian who kind of knew there was a film industry in Nova Scotia and thought it was pretty cool. Thought it was pretty cool to be a little community and say, this is where they filmed this, or Trailer Park Boys. But I really didn't understand the economics behind it and what an economic driver it was for our provincial economy. So being in the legislature in 2015 when the changes came, it kind of forced me to really dig into what was the issue we were talking about. And for me, the coolness factor, the swagger that it gives to communities of being the home of the filming of a certain thing, that's really important. But that shows up in the economic benefits that spin off. So I think investments in the film industry are good, powerful investments that pay off for our province, and that's why we're doing this today.
Is there a timeline goal for when you would like to ideally see the soundstage open?
Ideally, it would be within 2 years.
Okay, we'll now move to the phone lines and take questions there. We'll start with Global Alicia Drose. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you. This question is for Laura. Can you just talk a little bit more about how a soundstage can kind of transform the landscape to a more year-round, destination?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, really, our production season ends in November and picks back up again in March, just because it is nobody wants to film in the winter outside in Nova Scotia. Oftentimes, the ancillary spaces that we use in Nova Scotia are the curling rinks and the hockey rinks, also unavailable in the winter. So what that means is that we are without a home for productions during that season. So people do not come here, which means every year we lose a number of our crew to go off to Toronto or Vancouver to get work, and of course, consequentially, we're losing some of them every year for good.
Alicia, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, this question is for the Premier. Can you talk a little bit more about your goal with your meetings in LA next week?
Yeah, thank you. So, and the goal is just to make sure that the decision makers in LA understand my personal commitment to growing the industry, but also the commitments of the province of Nova Scotia to grow the industry. So I think it's really important that that as Premier, I look them in the eye and tell them that we're committed to growing the industry here and that they can get done what they need to get done here in Nova Scotia.
Okay, next we'll go to Jonathan McGinnis with CTV. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, sorry, wonderful announcement. I'm holding for the Premier afterwards.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to Stephen Cook with the Chronicle Herald. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the timing of the announcement. Would this have come earlier if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic? Was this something that was kind of in the cards for a long time, or is it the dropping of restrictions and moving forward sort of a key reason for why these announcements are coming down right now?
Yeah, no, I think it's just a thank you for the question, and I think we've been in government for, I don't know, six months now. It seems like a little longer than that. But I think people will see that we feel an incredible sense of urgency to execute on our agenda. We've made an incredible amount of announcements around healthcare. We've made a whole series of other announcements in other industries. So this is one. When you think about our goal to double the population of Nova Scotia, we need to put Nova Scotia in front of people. They need to understand what Nova Scotia is all about and get interested in it. And we do that through tourism. We do that through the film industry. The spin-off tourism benefits from the film industry are just incredibly breathtaking. The amount of people that come here to see Oak Island or to see some of the other sets around here. So this is part of our agenda for population growth. It's part of our agenda to grow the tourism industry, and would have liked to have done it a little sooner. I think Mike and Laura would have liked us to do it a little sooner too, but here we are, and this is I'm incredibly proud of this announcement because I know that it will do good things for our province and all the things we're trying to execute on.
Stephen, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, this is obviously great news for the industry, and the fact that it's done so well during the pandemic is certainly a positive thing. I'm wondering how competitive this will make us, I guess, maybe across the country in terms of bringing more productions here that might have gone elsewhere. I know recently there was a story about Diggstown possibly moving some of its production to PEI, and I know that the Maud Lewis film being made in Newfoundland instead of Nova Scotia may have ruffled some feathers. I don't know, but I'm wondering, does this really boost our stakes competitively?
Yes, the Content Creator Fund is going to go such an incredibly long way in making sure that those local emerging, mid to sort of senior level producers are keeping their feature films in the province. Those productions are made at a fairly low budget, and what this means is that they can now complete their financing in Nova Scotia and keep their projects here instead of moving them to Newfoundland or Sudbury or Northern Ontario anywhere, which is exactly what's happening right now because they have those direct funding programs. So for that reason, it's not only just making sure that we can film them in Nova Scotia, but we're helping to develop incoming crews that way. That's how, most people get work in the film industry by helping their friend on a passion project, and then they fall in love with the industry and they make a career out of it. That's, probably one of the ways most people get into the film industry. It was the way I got into the film industry. So it's really about creating that ecosystem that is going to, really help the tide rise and create that base for our industry. We need a local filmmaker base in order to have, a successful film ecosystem.
Perfect. Are there any other questions in the room?
Premier, is this money coming from the upcoming budget, or is this money that you have available now from the fiscal year that's about to end?
Yes, it's part of the current fiscal year.
How much of the 12 million have you raised? The remaining, you're getting 8 million from the province, so you need to make up 12 million.
Yes.
Do you have a figure for how much money you've raised so far?
Well, we are working with a number of different investors who have confirmed that they have the completion financing. We haven't determined who we'll be working with just yet.
And Ms. McKenzie, so the answer at this point is still no. You don't have firm commitments on the remaining 12.
We haven't determined who we'll be working with yet. Yeah.
I think it would be safe to say that there'll be no lack of interest to support the project. I think that'd be fair. Because I think when you think about it in the bigger context of the additional fund and just what's possible for the industry, this just strengthens our position on the map, our place on the map as a place to do film and television, and the investment will be found. There will be a soundstage in Nova Scotia, and we will grow the industry.
I think more people might actually pick up a phone after this announcement as well. So it might be more than 3.
I think I think it's also important to note that there are a number of companies out there that have been looking at building a soundstage in Nova Scotia for a long time. Now, this is what is going to get us over the hump. This is it's going to move us past the obstacle. But there is a lot of interest out there. This is a revenue generating project.
When we spoke last year, Ms. Mackenzie, this was kind of everything on your want list. So are there other things the screen in Nova Scotia might look for from the province, or are you good for now?
You know, I like I said, today is a day to be grateful, and I certainly feel that way. You know, we're going to continue to work with Premier Houston, and I know, you know, as a partner, he's going to be open to working with us to make the small, smart tweaks and changes that we can make, just to ensure that we are, you know, as attractive and competitive as we can be. But today, I think we are all very happy with this news.
Laura, is there, how many movies have you guys, you've gone into negotiations with and they have said, oh, you don't have a soundstage, so maybe we'll look somewhere else? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, it happens. There's a certain budget level at which Nova Scotia is comfortable with. And that's just, you know, because of the nature of the infrastructure that we have, there's a natural governor in place. So we don't have the crew and the space and the equipment and the capacity to do, you know, 100 million per episode budget, you know, projects. But we do have the infrastructure now to do 40 million, you know, budget projects. So what this will do is it'll give us the capacity to do more of them.
Okay, that concludes today's announcement. Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.
You guys want to stay and answer some more questions?